Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about tract distribution. On one of my last videos I talked about how do you make your own tracts, how do you write them. Today we're getting more into the practical side of it. How do you hand them out? How do you even get started? Remember, tracts are like one of the fundamentals, the staples of evangelism. They've been around forever, since the printing press, and they're really great. They're great for typically three reasons. First, if you're just getting introduced to evangelism, don't really know how to step out and share your faith, and you're not really comfortable with one-on-one conversations, handing out tracts is a great way to get your feet wet. You don't really have to do a whole lot of talking. You could just hand out the tracts and you're leaving people with a clear gospel message, and it kind of warms you up for that one-on-one conversation. They're also good because you're leaving somebody, like I said, with a clear gospel message that they could read on their own. A lot of times when you're doing a one-on-one conversation with somebody, they'll only retain so much. And you know, the parable of the sower, sometimes you sow the seed and then the enemy can snatch it right up off of their hearts. And then so when you sow the seed in a one-on-one conversation and you also leave them with the tract, you could leave them with something they could refer back to, and it's almost like planting that seed again, and you know, God will water it and bring the increase. The third thing that I use tracts for is not only getting my feet wet, not only leaving somebody with a gospel message, but they're great conversation starters. A lot of times I found out early on I didn't really know how to approach people. I wanted to do one-on-one conversations, and I wasn't sure necessarily how to start. So I started getting really compelling, thought-provoking gospel tracts, like the "What is the ultimate statistic?" or you know, God doesn't believe in atheist tract, something that has like a thought-provoking cover on it, and then I would use that as a conversation starter to be able to transition into the gospel. So that's what tracts are really helpful for. A couple of practical do's and don'ts when you're handing out tracts. I've made some of these mistakes myself, and I've seen others do, and it doesn't really help you out in the long run. So these necessarily aren't biblical, but just more practical things you should and shouldn't do. So for instance, don't be awkward or scary. You know, like have just a straight face, scary face, and say, "Here, this is for you." You know, kind of freak people out. Don't do like the last minute handout, to where if you're approaching somebody and then right when you get up to them, just at the last minute, just stick your hand out, say, "Here's for you." That kind of freaks people out. You might get hit. You might scare somebody. And it's just really awkward. Another thing, don't whisper or talk softly. If you're going to hand out a tract, if you're going to say something, don't say, "Here's for you," and whisper to where you're behind your breath, and they say, "Wait, what was that?" And it's just going to make it really awkward for you when you're talking to somebody. So instead of doing those things, some things you should do is speak with an audible voice, have an upright posture, just be friendly, smile, put your hands straight out before you connect with them. You know, so if you could see somebody from a distance and you're approaching, you know you're going to hand them a tract, kind of make eye contact and give the gesture like you're going to give them something before you get up to them, so it's not that last minute handout. Things you shouldn't say. Again, this is just a preference for me. I've learned that I get a better response rate, meaning I get more people to actually take the tracts when I don't say, would you like one of these, or can I give this to you? It's really passive, not very straightforward. So what I've learned to say, instead of "Can I give you this?" or "Would you be interested?" or "Would you like one of these?" instead of saying that, I say, "Hey, did you get one of these?" Or, "Hey, this is for you," and I'll hand it out to them. And most people, when you say, "Did you get one of these?" it sounds like they're missing out on something, and it's like, no, I didn't get one of those, and they're more likely to take them from you. Or if you say, "Hey, this is for you," it's more. I just found that it's a better response from people rather than "Can I give this to you?" So those are some practical do's and don'ts. Now, where do you hand out tracts? How do you even get started? You obviously don't want to go to like the middle of a field where nobody's there and try to hand out tracts. So I have a little list in front of me of some places that I like handing out tracts. So ATM and credit card slots. Every time I go to the gas station or I go to the bank, I always take a tract. And if you have like the square kind of tracts that are available at combatingunbelief.com, I found that if you fold it in half, just like that. It fits perfectly in an ATM slot, so you can actually go to the bank and leave them there. Sometimes I could leave it kind of like an upright position to where it sets just like this, to where they could see the top of it. That's really good for the ones that say "Please take one" across the top. So I always keep at least a few tracts with me in my wallet or my business card holder, so that way if I go out of the cashiers at the store, I could give them one, say, "Hey, thank you." As they give me the receipt, I say, "Well, here, this is for you," and they say, "Oh, thank you," and they'll take it. So ATM machines, credit card slots at the gas station, department stores, when you're checking out with the cashier. Community boards. There's a few like burger joints in town that they have a big pin board. Anybody can leave their business card, whatever material you want to leave. So I typically put a gospel tract up there that says "Please take one," and who knows, maybe people will take it. I've done that a few times. That there's a few different places that always have something like that, and every time I've left a gospel tract there, I come back and it's gone, so meaning somebody's taken it, and somebody's taken the time to read it. I've taken my son out to bus stops, and I hand them out to people at bus stops, and if nobody's at the bus stop, I've learned that you can actually get a gospel tract and fold it kind of like a cone, and put it in the hole at the bus stop, or in the benches usually they have holes, and it's kind of sticking out just enough for people to wonder what it is and read it. And again, I go back to those bus stops and they're not there, so people are taking them and reading them. Movie theaters are big here in town. We don't have a gigantic city where there's always different venues of people outside, so I have to go to where the people are. And here in town, the movie theater, there's always people walking around the movie theater, so we go there and hand out tracts. Any kind of fairs, farmers markets, wherever there's people, hand out tracts. One of the things we did here in town, there was an art event going on. There's a big art event going in the Tower District where there's a lot of artsy type people. So I put my art on gospel tracts and I started handing them out to people, and they're thinking it has something to do with the art event that was going on, but little did they know they had the gospel message in their hand and they were going to go read that when they went home. I found that the best time to hand out tracts personally is holidays, namely Halloween and Christmas. And in fact, I didn't prepare for this, but these are the only two tracts that I had in my jacket. I had both the Christmas tract and the Halloween tract that I typically hand out. The Christmas tract is a picture of Santa wondering what's Christmas all about, and then it transitions into the gospel. And then I have the Halloween tract. It doesn't really say anything about Halloween. It's just a picture of a tombstone and it says, "Are you going to die? Open up and find out. You may be shocked." Whenever kids are trick-or-treating, I just did this last year. I put a bunch of tracts in sandwich bags. I had about 80 sandwich bags, 2 pieces of candy, the good candy, and a gospel tract. And then when I was out of those, I used gospel tracts and Gospels of John, free Gospels of John that you could get at pocketpower.org. And I handed out about 80 tracts, 30 Gospels of John, and I didn't get any rejects. Everybody was glad to get them, and these little kids are taking their tracts, and I told them, you got to let your parents read those. So the gospel went out probably about 120 different people that night, and all I had to do was answer my door. For Christmas, we have a street right down the street from my house, actually, that they call Christmas Tree Lane, and people they just go there and they look at all the lights. Everybody in the neighborhood does it really big. They have really cool Christmas lights out, and you have tons of people walking down the street, up and down the street, getting free hot chocolate or just looking at the Christmas lights. So I go out there with a box of candy canes, little miniature candy canes, and a gospel tract. And I put the gospel tract with the candy cane, and I handed it out, and I didn't get one single turn down. When in just a normal gospel tract handing out session, you might get, maybe 1 out of 3 will turn it down. I found out that in holidays, nobody ever turns it down. So those are some practical tips, some do's and don'ts, the importance of gospel tracts. Again, if you need any gospel tract templates, they're for free online at combatingunbelief.com, along with some tutorials on how to make your own if that's something you want to do.